Thanks for joining us for the Changing the Industry podcast, where we try to effectuate change for the better, one conversation at a time. Part of that change is providing help for those that need it. This is why we've partnered with the Institute for Automotive Business Excellence. Whether it's help with sales, operations, or just getting your numbers in order, these folks are some of the very best in the industry. And for our listeners, they'll sit down with you and go over your strengths, your weaknesses, and the opportunities that are in front of you. They'll create a customized plan for how to move forward, absolutely free. That's right, free. And if your plan includes one-on-one coaching, they can also help you with that. There's no hard sales pitch, no obligation, just honest help from honest people. So if that's something that you think could benefit you, make sure you click on the link in the show notes. And now, on to the show. I have watched you literally berate people.
I don't berate anybody.
I have watched you literally berate people because they did one thing differently than you would have done it.
That is a filthy lie. Hey, is this recording?
No, it's not.
Well, hit the record button. Did I do it right?
I don't understand the purpose of this.
Purpose of what?
If he's going to sit over there and eat, what is the purpose of recording?
Well, you guys are just yakking back and forth. I'm like, I'm hungry, damn it. And what you're going to do is
what is that over there?
That
looks like a buffalo turd.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You didn't make the food.
Good. The beans are good. And it's a very small lettuce wedge and an overly breaded drumstick. But
okay. All right. That's why it looked like an airy turd. Okay.
Did everything get chili? Is it like...
No, I mean, the beans are warm. The pork that they have here.
Tell me that doesn't look like an airy turd.
It doesn't. I was out there. It was fried chicken.
It's fried chicken.
Or maybe I'm just going blind. I might be tired. I don't know.
You're definitely tired, son. I mean, think how much you're up doing all this stuff. Come on, you're not taking care of yourself.
And everybody thinks that this is an immense amount of activity. I guess setup and the breakdown is a little bit. I guess lugging the stuff around.
What are you talking about? He didn't lug anything. I did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He lugged everything
Hannibal
himself.
crossing the Alps did not lug as much of his crap as I did with him.
Yeah, he did.
Did you at least carry the little Pelican?
I did.
He did. I got the big one and the two others, too.
One of the...
Well, no, because those two are mine, so I had the big Pelican that weighs more than I do. It's a good thing I wear a truss, otherwise I'd have hurt myself.
Right. What can I say?
What can you say?
Probably not much. Okay, Dutch.
Yeah.
I think this is elder abuse.
But I don't know. You guys are younger, and I'm the ones that abusing you, so...
Why are you so grumpy? Is it the
He doesn't sleep much either. I'm concerned about
him. He never sleeps. He doesn't sleep at all. You get random text messages at 3 a.m. You're like, what is this?
No, you're his BFF. Sleeping? You get random text messages. I don't get random text messages.
Dutch yells at me if he knows I'm up at 3.
Yeah, pretty much, because I'm up. So if he sends me anything, I'll yell at him.
So you got to do what I feel like was a very honorable thing a few minutes ago. You got to speak to this crowd. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you said. Tell us what the purpose of what you were talking about was.
I got what Brian Plott called the Founders Award because ETI is a wonderful organization that is kind of underpublicized in our end of the industry, and that it's a great asset, but independent shop owners really don't know anything about it.
Correct.
But there was a barrier to entry because it was, in order to join as a member, you had a $5,000 yearly investment.
Right.
Now, that yearly investment entitled you to see white papers and a white paper library from the manufacturers, the original, vehicle manufacturers. And when I saw him, when we were in Austin years ago, as associate members, we don't need that. So
right.
I said, let's work at an affiliate program. And I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, and I gave him a check for $1,000.
Okay.
What you get here at this event is the opportunity to actually sit down and converse with aftermarket tool manufacturers.
Okay.
So you can give them feedback. Since you're the end user, which is what always was missing in my view from this, you had the OEMs, you had the aftermarket manufacturers, but you didn't have any end users. I don't think when we were in Austin, if there were 5 of us there, right?
Yeah.
It's because they were all from ASOG and what we were doing.
Yeah.
There wasn't
100%.
There wasn't anybody else
Correct.
that was there, right? Lucas, so having the ability to gain different perspectives and to have different insights because we're talking to the original equipment manufacturers and the aftermarket manufacturers to get that feedback establishes a bigger picture, a different perception. And that's critical if we're going to understand where the industry is, where it's going to go, what we're going to have to do to tool up in order to remain viable for the long term. When you have guys at my age, we have to devise succession plans, right?
Correct.
And the only way to do that is to be able to have a business that is going to thrive in the future, which means that we can't afford to not make the investments necessary for us so that when we do sell the business, there's a viable business that can be sold. So what do they say, 30% of guys in our business are over 55 years of age?
Exactly. Well, so a couple things that stand out to me is I look at ASTA, I look at MWACA, I look at the folks out in California, ACSSA or ASCCA. I can't remember which it is.
MOUSE.
Exactly. I look at AASP as current, right? I look at those as those who are sharing the current information that we have, providing training on the current status of things, right? I look at ACA, and ACA is really focused on providing legislative support to our industry and setting us up in a direction where we can go and move forward and a favorable light. But then I see ETI, and for me, ETI represents the future. ETI is opposed to talking about where we're at right now. ETI is providing the data and the information which allows us as shop owners to plan for the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because the information that's provided here is like nothing anywhere else. Exactly. Right? You will not find this information. They will not talk about the things that are talked about here anywhere else, right? It just.
Why do you think that is? This podcast is brought to you by Parts Tech. Parts Tech gives you access to unlimited parts and tire vendors and direct integration with over 35 shop management systems. And you can also get premium features like tire comparisons, mobile quoting, and preferred brands. So what are you waiting for? Accelerate your parts ordering and get started for free by clicking the link in the show notes or going to partstech.com/podcast. That's partstech.com/podcast.
We take the trust of our listeners very seriously, and I hope that you know that when I say that Shopware is the best automotive shop management system, I believe it in my heart of hearts. And now it's even better. With new features like Tech App, it streamlines the inspection and dispatching process for you and your technicians. And with massive improvements to Shopware's exclusive digital vehicle experience, they have stepped their game up to a whole new level. So if you haven't scheduled a demo yet, click the link in the show notes and do it today. If you've already had a demo and you were waiting to finally switch, there has never been a better time. So click that link and get started today. I think it's because there's a lot of manufacturers here, right? There is a plethora of manufacturers here.
This is a step above the manufacturers, though. These are the consulting companies that the manufacturers hire to give them guidance on market research, on the next steps they need to take.
Yes.
And so they come out and they present their findings. I thought it was fascinating that the gentleman yesterday was saying that $60 billion of warranty work is going to get wiped out by over-the-air updates.
Yeah.
What's that going to do to the dealerships?
Well, I'd like to know what the context was, how they determined that, based on what? I mean, because they don't know what problems are going to arise in the future. So 60, all that
if
money.
they're looking at the existing problems and the
They know
manufacturer
what's solved by updates.
and the manufacturer saying,
Yeah.
I can fix this with a software tweak. And the manufacturers now have the capability to do over-the-air updates. They're no longer going to swap in parts. It's not an update the part that now has a new calibration. Now it's, well, we can circumvent the problem with a software update. Let's just push out a software update.
Dutch is out of focus, just so you know.
Is he really? Is he?
Wrong way.
Probably look better that way.
There you go, right there.
I was trying to soften up the look.
Yeah, he does look muddled.
Muddled or befuddled?
A little bit of both.
$60 billion of warranty work is gone. The dealerships are going to become incredibly aggressive. This is 2025. Isn't that what he said? 2025? So we were talking 2 years from now. All of a sudden, the dealerships don't have as much warranty work. The OEs don't have to pay it out. They just push an update out, gets downloaded over the air, fixed.
Yeah, but you got to remember that's an optimistic scenario, right? I mean, this is not guaranteed that we're going to have this. This is what is possible.
The projections.
The projections. So, that's really cautious, very optimistic.
But he had existing numbers that were being fixed with over-the-air updates. If the car being designed for tomorrow factors in over-the-air updates, why wouldn't we see an accelerated amount of warranty work disappearing from the dealerships because they're being fixed with over-the-air updates? It would make sense for me as an OE to circumvent the dealership entirely. I don't have to pay for a technician to swap in a new part. I'll just fix it with an over-the-air update. So it makes sense that they're going to accelerate that whole program. So the dealerships now don't have as much warranty work, which means they need more customer pay work, which means that all of a sudden they become much more aggressive. And you see buffoonery like that Toyota ad, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can see
Stay
that.
out of the independent repair shops.
I didn't see that ad.
You didn't see the ad with the guy looked like a grease monkey. He had patched a tire with duct tape.
I don't think I saw that.
And Toyota's like, our factory trained techs versus the other guy. And the other guy's, in bibs, covered in grease head to toe.
Yeah, looks pretty rough.
With and that was the ad. That was it. Okay.
Taking advantage of the stereotype that exists.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the stereotype, but I mean, that's just going to get more and more aggressive. The dealerships also are getting really aggressive looking for techs. What is it? BecomeAFordTech.com or some garbage like that.
Stickers on the oil filters and under cars.
Stickers, the oil filters. But now it's national campaigns. You never saw Become a Ford Tech playing on national TV during a football game before. Now it's all over the place.
Yeah. And I think what bothers me is because they don't really want to train them to be technicians anymore. They want to train them to follow a flow chart. They want to train them to do what we tell you to do.
Honda did a great job yesterday. They didn't say follow the flow tech. Hondas are my favorite flow techs. Like, is the problem present? Yes. Obtain known good part, swap it in.
Right.
Is the problem still present?
Yeah.
Yes. Go through our intermittent problem flow chart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Replace with known good part.
Yeah.
Well, so what, you've got a ton of opportunity, right, to be here and to listen and to hear what they have to say and give feedback, give the tool companies feedback, right? And that's something we've not had, and they're open to hearing it, right? I think in the past we've always thought that they weren't. They're just a big corporation. They don't care about you, blah, blah, blah. They're truly interested in hearing what we have to say. They're truly interested in being part of the conversation, right?
I'm skeptical. I am cautiously optimistic. I want to believe that they are.
Okay.
I don't have the history under my belt to say they definitely are. Having done this for over 25 years as a shop owner, I've never been approached by any company to say, what are your ideas about, we're coming up with a new tool.
Okay.
What are your ideas about what that tool should do?
Okay.
What ease of use functions do you want? What functionalities, what is it that you want to see? What I've seen is the manufacturer comes up with the tool and says, okay, goes to beta testers, you try it out. You let me know what you think about the tool after it's already designed, produced, and changes are much more difficult to make. But insofar as, hey, we're producing a tool that does this, what are your ideas? They've never been solicited from me. Now, it might be completely different for you guys or other shop owners. They might have a better relationship or working relationship with a manufacturer who readily approaches them and says, okay, let's give me some ideas. I don't see it. So I want to be cautiously optimistic. And what I like about ETI is that this establishes a venue to get it done.
Yep, I agree.
The communication the networking is here. You're not sending an email off to somebody that you don't know in the hopes that you get contact information so that you can call them on the phone or maybe find out when they're going to be at the next event. They arrived here. They want to talk to you. I've got cards in my pocket from people coming up to me that are with representatives that saying, here, call me.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. What they do with it, I don't know. Like I said, I'm cynical. But it's a beginning.
Yeah.
It's a bridge that we all need to be on.
That we've never had before.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And for me, the barrier to entry was always the cost. So working with Brian Plott and mentioning that, we've taken the dues down to $1,000. Okay. But we're going to be doing more. And that is, I shared some numbers with him about what the average shop does across the country, et cetera, that were through the Department of Labor and some other sources. And he's going to work with the board of directors to having the event cost get lowered for the affiliate members as well.
Right.
So that right now it's like $895.
Okay.
Well, that's a pretty big investment. And you guys had talked about return on investment. All right, let's do what we can to eliminate the barriers to entry to get them over here. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but the reason that I was brought up was because I gave a donation to make sure that at least 5 shop owners can attend. Yeah. And I'll do that every year, like a scholarship.
Right.
Now, they'll decide, the board of directors, he said, will decide how they're going to meter out the funds, whether it's 5 individuals at $1,000 apiece or one person at $5,000 to cover travel expenses and accommodations. Right. But this is the best chance, you know.
So I could not imagine being a shop owner, and maybe it's because I've been here, right? But I could not imagine being a shop owner and not think, I need to be part of this. I need to not just come to the event, but I need to be part of this organization, right? Because if we don't support the organizations.
Why do you think the NHTSA guys never ever, not the NHTSA guys, the NASTIF guys, they never said anything?
Huh?
They come here.
Yeah, the NASTIF.
They have their board meeting here.
They had their board meeting and their general session meeting. I attended it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I asked
Don. So they some of these guys are shop owners. They're board members. They come to this. They see what goes on here. They're in the know.
There's been some conversations about that
of why it didn't.
And I don't want to. I definitely don't mean to throw shade, right? But I think.
Well, I don't know these guys like you do. You're friends with everybody. I'm okay throwing shade. It's not even that I'm showing shade. It's more curiosity. I come to this.
Is there an advantage for one shop owner to have this information while keeping other shop owners from having it?
There is, but it's just in your immediate local area. So, you know,
right. But if you're the one, if you have training opportunities and you provide training to people and you do other things. And then now all of a sudden that data is only distributed through you. You're the portal for which it.
Maybe I could see that. But then, it's so your mindset, it's your mindset is overly myopic. You need to look at helping more people rather than looking at it as a slight advantage to pad your bottom line. I don't see the sense in it. Having more people in the conversation and more viewpoints, more opinions allows the conversation to widen and allows for improvement to happen. Because if you're just asking me for my particular opinion, like it's subjective. It's only what I have experienced. You get 1,000 shop owners all giving their 2 cents. All of a sudden, real change can happen because these manufacturers are now, the manufacturers, the consultants, the tool manufacturers, they're all looking at it going, okay, we need to shift. We're getting so many people telling us this one thing, we need to shift in the direction that we're going. I mean, just something like the whole Snap-on PDF thing everybody's complaining about. It's probably going to get fixed. Well, why is it going to get fixed? Because, 2 or 3, 4, 5, 6 shop owners complained about it to the right guy.
Yep.
They may have been telling their tool guy, and the tool guy just shrugs his shoulders like, who's he supposed to tell? He doesn't know. Well, now we have people with actual influence that can make a change.
So what is your concern that the NASTIF guys haven't?
I don't think it's the
kinda-
NASTIF
it's
guys.
not
There's
my
some shop
concern.
owners that are here.
There are shop owners that have been here before, way before we showed up. Had you ever?
I've spoken to at least 3, and I can tell you that 3 ideas kept on coming up. Number 1 was that they didn't see the value in having a conventional shop owner attend because the classes that historically shop owners have taken aren't present here. There are no straight tech classes here, and there are no straight business classes.
No, I say it's BS. That's
We've talked about before, you guys have talked about the fact that it's difficult enough, we're in the 1% to 2% to actually send their techs and their employees, fellow employees
and
to
that
training.
1 or 2% want to see this.
Okay, those are the people we have to appeal to. That's the simple truth of it, David, is that
If you move the entire bar, because now it's not, hey, send your techs to training. I think that goes without saying. To especially larger training events, right? I think that goes without saying. So now you have the normie shop owner who is now striving to reach that goal. I'm going to do everything I can to go to ASTE this year. I'm going to do everything I can to go to ITTC. I'm going to do everything I can. It's like, okay, well, they're sending their guys to ITTC. They're sending their guys to AST. What's the next logical step? It's like my staff is getting good training, but I need macro level information to make informed decisions about what my shop's going to look like. Any shop that does a SWOT analysis needs to have this information.
Yes.
yeah,
I
but
agree.
how many shops do you really think do a SWOT analysis?
The ones that know about it do.
How many? All right, look, let's be realistic about this. All right, come on, you're a smart man. You tell me, out of all the shops that are in the country, what percentage of those shops that are independently owned, not franchised or big box store shops, independently owned, actually create an MF and budget? All right, sit down in December and say, my budget for January through December of next year, I am going to allocate X amount of dollars for training, X amount of dollars for uniform expense, cover every expense, and do that. They don't even do that. Now you're asking me, which is what you do at your house, right? But they don't do that for their business. Now you're going to say, oh, I need to perform a SWOT analysis? Get the F out of here. This is not what these people are thinking about.
I don't do one for my house.
Okay. Most shop owners are
It just turned red.
Huh?
You said that, it
Focused.
just turned red.
right? Most shop owners, they manage their business from their checkbook, right? It's as long as they see cash flow, they're okay. If you ask them what SWOT analysis stood for, what SWOT stand, they can't tell you. They don't do. These are things that the larger organizations and franchises teach because it's necessary. But that is atypical behavior. Not typical behavior for the average shop owner. And guess what, Pookie? It's not typical behavior for even the 1 or 2%. Right? I guarantee you, if you took all the people that were that we go to ASTE and that represents the 1 or 2%. When we go to AST, those are the people who, and we'll either further limit it by saying have gone to at least one training event per year. AST Envision, ASTE, and Ratchet and Wrench. So these people are dedicated to training, and you would say to them, tell me, how many of you have actually created a yearly budget that's broken down by category, by month? You would see less than 1% actually do it. So if the top of the top, the epitome, the best of the best, have that small percentage, what is the likelihood, David, that you're going to see a SWOT analysis performed? Actually, wait, let me finish this for a second. That the amount of introspection that you want that shop owner to have to say, let me look at the macro and the micro picture of this is actually going to occur. It doesn't. It flat out doesn't.
I think they do it just informally. I think they look at their. Well, look, if you're spending, if at the very least you have decently clean financials, okay, and they're talking to a CPA or they're talking to their bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper isn't, family member that just does it on the side, and they have actual meetings with these people. I think in a sense they're budgeting, not in the formal sense, but informally they're looking at their numbers going, okay, my overhead's $50,000 a month, right? And I spend, $33,000 in payroll, and okay, so I need to my break even. And I bet you if we poll enough shop owners, I think a large percentage of them know where their break even is.
Oh, come on. The financial literacy in our business is so high.
Yeah, but
it's
financial literacy in the sense that you're looking at it from more of an accounting side. Just a simple number like a break even number, I think puts it in a very digestible fashion. And that in a sense is budgeting. They know where their numbers need to be at. So what happens with the extra? When you say that managing from their checkbook, I remember back in one of the management success classes I'm sitting through, the guy opens up his banking app and he's like flipping through, and he looks at me, and I'm looking over, and he looks at me, he goes, "Yeah, just make sure it's at 60,000. That number has to stay at 60. If it drops below 60, something's wrong in the business. And I just want to see it grow, but that 60,000 is my threshold. Like, it's got to stay there." He's managing out of his checkbook, but he's got a chunk of money in the bank. He's got savings and stuff like that. But he's looking at that OPEX account. That OPEX account's got to be at 60,000. That guy there can probably push his mindset past that and go, okay, stop thinking about the 60,000. Put in more of a budget. Let's start looking at what the industry is going to bring in 3 to 5 years and the shifts that you need to make. Because it then forces him to start looking at it from a sense of preparedness rather than reactionary. Every single one of those guys that were sitting up there today that were saying that they didn't bother. They weren't going to bother with a level 2 charger. I have a level 2 charger. Every single one of them has said, well, I'm not bothering with it. Why? I haven't seen enough demand for it. Well, okay.
Yeah, they've not been here to see the evidence that there is no way around.
When all of the manufacturers and all the consultant firms are standing up there talking about EV, EV, that's got to throw up a red flag and go, oh, crap. I may not be seeing it, but there's a tidal wave coming.
Even the least optimistic that it's going to be achieved are saying, oh, it's coming. We don't know how quick it's going to be adopted. We don't know when it's going to be there. We don't know how it's going to be there. It is coming, though, right? There's no way around that. That is coming.
The gentleman yesterday said, you don't even understand. Wait till the Chinese show up with their $15,000 EVs. Wait till they show up with their $15,000 EVs. They flood the market with cheap EVs, and everybody starts snatching them up. What are you going to do then? We went from no Teslas on the road to everybody's got a Tesla 3. Everybody. They're all over the place in Kansas City.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yep, they're all over the place near me.
Yeah, my local grocery store all of a sudden has Tesla superchargers. Mm-hmm. A whole line of them that they took some parking spots and slapped them in. Okay, great. If the normal shop owner, just the average shop owner, doesn't stop thinking about things in a reactionary fashion, they're going to get left behind. What ETI at least does is it gives them a mechanism to start thinking about 3 to 5 years down the road, and all of a sudden a SWOT analysis makes sense.
I agree with that the last part of your statement completely, 100%. ETI gives people the opportunity. What it doesn't do is it doesn't give them the self-discipline to engage in doing it. And God bless you.
Thank you.
And that is a big, big obstacle that must be overcome. The fact is that, we could talk about what we should do and what happens. And Jeff mentioned on the panel that I looked for stage 3 of class 3 because I wanted to bring 3-phase power for the supercharger. Okay. When this first started, and the cost to do it, just to run the line is $10,000 plus tearing up my parking lot to do it. I'm in it for about $25K to get that going. There's no way that I'm going to pay for that and doing it. So now we go to 2. Okay. And I've got an electrician set up the wiring for me, and I'm waiting for him to finish. And okay, am I going to see anything as a result of that?
No,
not really. Zero. No. There's no ROI on that.
There is no ROI.
Okay. There's no measurable.
There is no measurable.
Right.
But it is very much, though, market positioning.
There's a benefit to having it, but it's not. Yeah, so we don't disagree. I can see the benefit, but insofar as how this is going to impact my bottom line, it's not going to.
Honda made a good point yesterday, though, where they said it's a diagnostic tool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Step 1, charge the stupid thing. See if it charges.
And if it doesn't charge, we have to know. Like, if somebody comes in and says it won't charge, we have to have a charger to know.
You got to have a charger to know. So then you just chalk it up to, I need a battery charger. We have battery chargers. We buy them when they break or whatever.
They're not expensive.
They're not overly expensive. A level 2 charger is not expensive.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than the Tornado, and the Tornado is legit and fairly inexpensive, right? Mm-hmm. So why aren't more shops jumping on it?
Because they don't see it.
It's a diagnostic tool, though. It's what, $500 plus the cost of the electrician. What's the electrician going to cost you? $500?
Yeah,
you're in it for $1,000. You got the charger set up. It's on the wall. Take a picture of it. Slap it up on Facebook. There you go. You got a level 2 EV. Slap yourself on the back.
And you have a 5% pre-tax net operating profit because you haven't worked the budget, which means you have to have $20,000 in gross revenue to pay for it. That's why they're not going to do it. All right.
But see, they don't know that.
Yeah, they do.
They don't know that. No, they don't.
do.
Dude,
All I
I'm
know
telling you. Look. Do you know how many messages I get a day? Do you know how I got 4 this morning?
You have that. What is that?
What's
that
wrong with a
OnlyFans
5%
account?
net operating
Look, you have that-
profit?
I got 4 of them.
You got 4% net operating profit? We need to talk.
I doubt I have 4% net operating profit right now.
They're finishing up my March books. I'll tell you what my operating profit is.
Listen,
It's probably 5%.
I get messages every single day. Got one this morning. Got 4 of them this morning from different shop owners who want to improve, who want to do better. They do not know their numbers. They have not known their numbers. They have been in business for 6 or 7 years. They do not know their numbers. They don't know what their net operating profit is. Do you know how they know what their net operating profit is? Because the accountant gives them a piece of paper at the end of the year that says 0 on the bottom of it and says that's what it's supposed to be.
That's why when you say to somebody, it's going to cost, what's $1,000? $1,000 is a hell of a lot of money for a shop that's making no profit or 4 or 5%.
I don't doubt that.
Okay, so they're not going to spend the money.
Hold on. First off, into the mic, dear, into the mic.
Dear?
And then
Thank you.
$1,000 though, like
David,
that's a week of returns.
David spends $1,000 a day on video games.
Not a day, not 1,000.
Not a day. He doesn't deny it. He says it's not a day.
They have good deals. They have good deals sometimes. If the game is $70 and all of a sudden it's $25 and you were like $70, I was looking at the game, but now it's $25. That's a no-brainer. I jump all over that.
That's a no sale, son. Okay, we're talking about discipline. That's what you call no sale.
That's where my net operating profits go. Anyway, so all I'm saying, $1,000 is a week of returns. You know, and you're a little return heavy. You bought something and then you're like, okay, they just credited me $1,000.
It's amazing how he just comes up with this stuff without out of his ass. He pulls this stuff out. It's just a week of returns, really? Based on what? On your experience? Because you are typical. Every shop in the world's just like your shop. That's it. You are the typical
2 weeks
shop.
for some other shop and 2 days for yours. All I'm saying is if it. Look at it this way. There's like 1,000 ways to slice this. We try to hit at the end of the month like 27-ish% parts cost to your overall gross revenue. That's the number I try to hit.
27%.
27%. Yeah.
And you're including dealer parts?
Yes. Okay. Everything.
Okay.
Tires. Everything.
Okay.
If it's a part, I try to hit 27% because I don't slice and dice the P&L like that. I look at the overall number because at the end of the day, it's coming out of my bank account. And I know if I get to 29, something's gone wrong. And that includes warranty work, and that also includes...
you don't break warranty work out on a separate line item?
Not when I'm looking at that particular number. If my number's up, then I want to dig in and look how much warranty work did we do.
He zeroes out his warranty work.
Okay.
I zero out my warranty work. No, because I know that if I spent $27,000 on a $100,000 month, my numbers are in line. If I spent $30,000 on a $100,000 month, I must have been warranty heavy, or did we do an engine on a loaner? But now I want to dig in. All I'm saying is, if the number drops down to 26%, I got some extra money. So what the hell am I going to spend it on?
That? You might do it. Really, do you think, all kidding aside, do you think that your business and your business practices with regard to watching money represent a typical or atypical activity?
I am completely incompetent managing money. I don't think you understand. I am completely incompetent managing money.
Me too.
I am a cluster F. I spend emotionally. When I get depressed, all of a sudden video games show up at my house. I'm just saying.
At least
I spend and spend and spend. And also, I also follow rabbit trails or rabbit
holes.
Yeah, I go down the rabbit hole. Yeah. I got obsessed with keys. I don't know, a month and a half ago. I wanted to do keys. I'm like, I'm going to get a key machine. And so I started pricing them, and I had them in the little cart. And the only thing that stopped me was, at least I looked back at that number and I go, I really don't have the extra cash. I had the cash, didn't have the extra cash, and I knew if I spend this now, in 2 weeks when rent's due, I'm going to be tight. Because that's my rent payment for one of my buildings, right? It's what I was about to drop on keys, the key machine.
I was kind of hoping he got him because then I could buy him from him at a discount.
I know, right?
Because I have a
pennies
lot of
on the
keys.
dollar. Pennies on the dollar.
And paid him in cash.
Right? Oh, he would have
I was
loved
just
that.
going to buy the machine.
Hey, do you need to buy any video games? You need video games? You play video
They're
games?
on the
Don't tell that with my son. Forget it.
I was going to buy the machine, and I was going to buy like a few with the keys that I needed.
Which machine were you going to get? The Dolphin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that stopped me was just looking at but I guarantee you last year I would have bought it. I would have bought it. I'm trying to be better this year, but I think for the average shop owner, I'm not atypical. I'm not. I'm every shop owner out there, every shop owner that's like, well, crap, I just overdrafted. Every shop owner that's like, where the hell did where the hell did my money go? I'm
Look
that
at the
shop
balance
owner.
sheet. That'll tell you where your money went.
Nah, most of them,
don't look
the
at the
balance
balance.
sheet's trashed. Yeah.
Not even. You don't want
Mine's
to look at my
trashed.
balance.
Mine is trashed. Mine
Well,
is
yeah.
the biggest cluster F.
Yeah, I took this loan.
It's one of the simplest documents on the face of the
It is,
planet.
but it's depressing when you see the
So you just
giant
stop looking
negative
at it.
number. Yeah, you stop
and
looking
that's
at it.
what the average owner does. Thank you. You just proved my
Yeah, but
point.
the balance sheet doesn't help you on a day-to-day basis. All I'm saying is that like if you it's as simple as this. It's as simple as I ordered in 215/60/15s and they were supposed to be 215/60/16s. I just spent $280 on these tires. I have to send them back. That $280, if the tires sit at my shop and it rolls over into the following month, they finish my documentation because I bought them on the 28th of the month and I didn't send them back till the 10th the following month. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I'm cash on the accounting, right? It's cash based.
Not accrual?
Not accrual. Okay. Cash. So what I spent. That's the number. And then the following, my number hit 27 this month. It's probably going to be lower. I got $280 sitting there. Like, what do I do with it? Well, you could be like, well, I'm going to make it 26 and try to get that number ticked down. Or I buy the level 2 charger. And then maybe the following month I got a little bit of extra money. It sits in a box. And then I hire the electrician or we trade some work. I guess technically you're not supposed to trade.
You can't
I
trade
don't
work.
trade with you.
You can't. Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking, you trade work, but you can't trade work because then it skips out on the taxes. But
You know what I think would be an excellent podcast? I think this would be an excellent podcast. I'm willing to sponsor it. Just this one episode, just because I think this I would love to see what David's definition of the average shop owner and what he does for practices versus what we can determine without his input is an actual average shop owner, just so that he could see that he is not typical, that he is atypical in his thinking and the way he operates his business.
But here's the thing is that, we talked about my friend Cass Choate a while back. Do you know Cass?
I remember the name, but I don't know the...
Owns Choate Engineering.
Okay.
Right? Like, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was repairing appliances, right? And now owns one of the largest diesel machine shops in the United States, right? Repair shop, massive repair shop. I mean, did he say how many square feet it was? 100 and something?
He never said.
Over 100,000 square feet of machine shop, right?
Nice.
Massive. I mean, it is a plant, okay? And we were talking about the fact that Cass is a itty bitty % of the entire population of the world, right? Not the population of repair shop owners, right? David doesn't follow conventional methods to run his shop, right? But David is 1/4% of the people on the face of this planet intelligence-wise. He has abilities and he can think through things in ways that most other human beings cannot.
That makes him atypical, and that just proves my point.
It's a mental illness, dear.
It's not a mental illness.
It's not intelligence.
It's not a mental That's silly.
I'm an artard, isn't that's all that is.
You just proved my point, Lucas.
I'm just looking It's not. I'm not atypical. I'm just telling you.
You choose not to believe it, but you
it's
absolutely
because I'm not.
are.
It's just I know my practices. The only thing I've done differently than every other shop owner is listening to this and going, yeah, like, hey, my bank account's got $500 in it, and I owe $30,000. I don't know what to do, and I make $1.4 million, like the gentleman, $1.4 million out of my business, and I can't pay my bills. Okay. I have been there. Okay. I have been there. The only thing I've done is I've made the mistake, I've broken the mistake down, and I know my own personal habits well enough to say, I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to budget. I'm not disciplined enough. I'm not. So how do I create fences around my behavior and create a simple system that allows me to mitigate the damage that I caused through my behaviors and my emotional spending, right? And something as simple as, all my credit cards are very low limit. They're all maxed out. Right now, you look at my credit cards, every single one of those mother effers are maxed out. So how do I manage? Oh, well, they give me same day credit access. So I make a $1,000 payment. I got $1,000 to pay on that credit card. Well, why do it that way? Well, it allows me to then spend daily to pay the bills, this, that, and the other. And I can watch as the money goes out. But I know as soon as I make that payment, that money's coming out of my bank account. And then also on top of that, again, I wasn't saving enough. So how did I get around that? Not saving the whole. What does every single coaching company teach you? What does every single one teach you? Write yourself a check, drive it down to the bank that you can't have access to, and deposit that in there and do it every single day. Even if it's 1%. How much did you take in? Oh, I took $1,100. You write a 1% check, you drive it down to the other bank, you deposit it, you do that every single day. I didn't have the discipline for that, dear. I didn't have the discipline for that. Like, that wasn't happening. I tried. It wasn't happening. So how to get around that? I just found a credit card processor that would skim off the top, dump it into a different bank account for me.
Sometimes it gets frustrating to me because you're not seeing what many of us outside see when we talk to you. That which you just described.
What? That's not. That's me creating fences around my behavior.
All right. Yeah. Do you think that creating fences around your behavior, which is a good response to a known problem, is something that the average person, one, does or even acknowledges? That someone says, I have a gambling problem, so I can't.
Don't drive by casinos.
I don't drive by casinos. Right now, we know that, and I don't get online, they say, because I have a gambling. All right, how many people have gambling problems or drinking problems and still drink? How many people, they don't engage in this type of proactive behavior.
Yeah. I can see that, but like, it's a good analogy, but something like
oh my God, he
problem,
said something that he actually,
the problem with like the drinking problem, or just, we were talking about eating and health last night at dinner, and the problem with eating overly processed foods that are high in sugar, high in fructose, right, is not that those problems are not going to manifest themselves for 20, 25 years. At 43, all of a sudden, knees hurt. At 60, all of a sudden, you have heart problems. And it was like, it's years of bad behavior, of making bad decisions. I decided to smoke. I kept drinking. I was eating processed foods. I wasn't exercising. It's like, okay. The difference, though, is that you can look at your checking account right now and decide whether my behaviors are a problem or not. Right now, everybody can open up their banking account and go, that's a problem. It's like, that is a problem. So what are you doing about it? I don't know. And so they freeze. They don't know what to do. The only thing I've done is I've broken the problem down and gone, how do I create a fence around this? Because if I don't create a fence around this, I don't have what you do is charge it up and then reconcile the parts invoices to what you've spent, and then you write a check and you hand the check and you get your 2%. That, in my world, get out of here. That's not happening ever. But that's what you do. That's atypical.
It's only atypical for general shop owners. It's not atypical for the corporate world.
No, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
true.
That's what I consider to be best practice. Right?
It is best practice.
And the best practice is one that was adopted that I could see from the corporate world in that regard. But
yes.
You have to understand, David, that if everybody, and you know how I feel about you, so this is not to be taken in a bad light, but if everybody had the ability to analyze and then come up with a proper solution to create fences and do what's necessary, then the majority of American households would not have a problem with debt. Not just shop owners. I'm talking about the majority of American householders would not have a problem. So the fact is that shows you that ability to compartmentalize, to recognize the problem, to ensure that there are steps to mitigate that problem, that's rare, pal.
It is, but
that's rare.
The need, it's. I was telling my wife this one time. I think I've told you this. We're now to the point, like we went through some lean years growing up, but you're young and like you don't need anything, right? You're sleeping on a couch that you got free out of the garage that you had to clean 50 times just to get it clean, and a TV that you've been lugging around for 10 years, a little 19-inch. That's what we had. Anyway, so you don't need that much. But you get to a point where it's like, I want to go out to dinner. We just go out to dinner. We don't ever check our bank account. We don't need to, right? If I need gas, I just go get gas. Like I never go, well, I gotta get gas today because I got paid today. And so like I gotta make sure I put gas, otherwise I'm gonna run out of money and I'm not gonna have gas in my vehicle. So I have to go to the gas station on a Friday or whatever it happens to be. We're not to that point. It's like I ran out of gas. I gotta go get gas. It's whatever. What my wife will sometimes see bills come in, or mostly tax demand letters. She sees the tax demand letter come in, and she sees the number on there, and she freaks out.
No doubt.
And she's like, oh, like, where are you going to get $6,500? And I'm like, I look at her and I go, if we got this random bill for $650 today, we'd feel it. It'd be uncomfortable. But would you worry about it? No. Exactly. When you start running a business and you get to the numbers that we're doing, which was unfathomable to me 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
You just have to add a zero to your household expenses that you feel is comfortable, uncomfortable, this, that, and the other. $1,000 bill at my house would feel very uncomfortable. A $2,000 bill is all of a sudden you're like, okay, we gotta find the money. We gotta tighten some things up, not go out to eat as much this month, whatever. So I said, just add a zero or just chop the zero off and look at it from a household standpoint, and you'll understand what we deal with. But as the numbers have grown, this is what I told her this 2 or 3 years ago. We're almost double what I was doing back then. The numbers have gotten to the point where a mistake is now a 5-figure mistake, not a 4-figure mistake or $100 mistake. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that 5 figures now starts, you're like, these are big numbers that's what freaked me out. That's what got me to the point where I'm like, I got to stop and make better decisions. That's where the fences started coming up, is I can't make a 5-figure mistake. I've made 5-figure mistakes. I've made 6-figure mistakes. Mm-hmm. It takes years to fix 6-figure mistakes. Yeah. It's not something you fix overnight. It's not that's okay. I'll just fix more cars. No. You're not fixing $250,000 in cars overnight. That's going to take you months. Plus, you still have bills coming in. Like, what are you going to do? And that's where a lot of my behavior. And so some of these guys that haven't changed their behavior haven't seen that hit them yet, or may never get to that point where they see it. But I'm just telling them, create the fences now when it's a $700 mistake as opposed to eating a $7,000 mistake or a $70,000 mistake.
And for which we're in absolute agreement. That's a good recognizing that there's an issue and then creating a system by which you can deal with it to prevent you from perpetuating that mistake is wonderful. I got that. But the amount of introspection that it takes is not something that most people do. It's just not. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the amount of debt that we have in this country. We wouldn't have the amount of alcoholism rates that we have in this country. We wouldn't have a lot of the social ills that we have in this country because the problems that exist that others can see, that people choose to ignore, that continue to fester and to create problems. Everybody else saw it, right?
Yeah. Did you see that Dave Ramsey clip that went viral? It was a lady who had called in and they were $1 million in debt.
Holy crap!
They weren't business owners like this boy over here's probably in $2 million.
No, believe it or not, if you want to be honest about it, probably
1.4 million in.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, I invested a lot of cash. My parents invested a lot of cash.
Yeah,
but total that I owe is probably somewhere around
1.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's a business owner sitting on an asset that is worth more than 1.4 million. But his debt is no. These people had consumer debt
of 1.4,
no asset of $1 million, and Dave Ramsey's he's looking at it going, how the hell did this happen? $250,000 was student loan. They're sitting on a $400,000 or $500,000 house. Another $150,000 in consumer debt. Their cars $70,000 in debt. $80,000. It's nuts.
Yeah, the very fact that Dave Ramsey is a viable solution for many people indicates that the amount of discipline that's necessary isn't present.
Do you think it's gone down? Do you think that the discipline has faded away more and more?
You want to know that you're going to hate this answer. But yeah, in my generation, it was completely, and my father's generation, we looked at money differently. And the amount of discipline, my father always said, first of all, he never had a credit card in his life.
Yeah.
And the only time I ever got a credit card was when he co-signed for me because I needed one for college, for supplies. That was it. And he'd say, if I can't afford it in cash, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
That was it. The only one note he had in his life was the mortgage on the house back in 1970, right? You know, before you got, 30 years before you guys were born, right? So, I mean, the amount of discipline and common sense that our grandparents had doesn't exist now. That's why people are floundering, because they live in an immediate gratification society now more than any time than I can ever recall in history. The idea of deferred gratification and sacrificing today for the blessings of tomorrow is anathema for most people.
Yeah.
They just, no, I'm not, I'm not going to do that. You only live once. I have the opportunity now. I'm going to capitalize it. I'm going to buy what it is I want to buy. And, the future's not guaranteed. We could die tomorrow. But according to the actuarial tables, the likelihood that you're actually going to do that is kind of remote. So why don't you just plan for living out longer? When we talk about it, we've had discussions in the past. If you're a technician and you're 25 years old and you say to yourself, I got to have some money when I retire, if you're smart enough, because most guys, limited vision. There's no reason when you're 55 that you couldn't retire with over $1 million in the bank.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Safe, reliable investments so that when you're 55, you could do whatever you wanted or not.
Now, that being said, 30 years later, whether that million's enough or not, it's a whole different ballgame. But
it depends on who's in the White House. We're not going there.
David said we were going there.
But the fact is that you're right, Lucas. What is that actually going to be worth at that time? Okay, well, there are other things that you can do to mitigate that. So, because you don't know what's going to happen with inflation, et cetera. But so if you don't have, you almost excuse it when you're younger, right? I was young. But if someone hasn't instilled that financial discipline in you when you're younger so that you always put back for a rainy day, the odds that you're going to get it later in life, unless you have some sort of epiphany where you go, holy crap, and have an oh shit moment like that you said, David, is not going to take place. Look, when I was younger, money came in, money went out.
Yeah.
That's all there was to it. I wanted the stereo, I wanted this, I wanted that. I just bought it. I didn't have a savings account, fellas, until I got married.
Yeah.
I had a checking account. The money was there. If I wanted something, strip clubs, whatever it is I wanted to do, I went.
Yeah.
That was it. Not a problem for me. All right, young, single, didn't make a difference. You got married, and then boom, my father's voice right in the background.
It's like he showed up out of nowhere.
Like he showed up, but I don't know. And he had been gone for many years, God rest his soul. And that's when his voice came back. And, I know. He's like, so how's that working for saving for a rainy day?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, Pop. So that's when I had to get my act together.
Yeah.
Right. That's when I started investing in insurance products because my father was 55 when he kicked and he didn't have any insurance. He was a child of the Depression. So he didn't believe in life insurance.
Yeah.
So when he died, what we had was what we had on our backs, man. That was it.
Yeah.
My mother was a teacher. So this was not, some lucrative gig where she's earning all this money.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we didn't have a savings account at all for the business. Personally, we didn't have anything, right? And a lot of that was personal decision. And I've shared this before. I'm not afraid to say, like, I didn't have to, right? Like, it was never necessary. Sort of like what you said. It was never truly necessary. And now looking back, I'll just say that if that savings account drops sub $10,000, like, there's times I've got to go into it, right? If it drops sub $10,000, I'm getting nervous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you realize how important it is, you realize that thing that comes up, that thing that happens that you can't control. And the difference between the stress level that you had and what it did to your family, what it did to those around you, what it did to your employees, and the way you treated people and the way you acted because it got that low and you didn't have the money to take care of that thing, compared to what it is when you can say, this is going to hurt, this is going to suck, here's $10,000, right? And one of the things I think about with shops is we've seen a lot of shops talk about the fact that they've had their insurance canceled because they've had to do so many claims.
Yeah. And
you think, well, if you had $50,000 or $60,000 in the bank and you had $15,000 or $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in savings, and something like that happened, you may have depleted that for now. But if you're diligent about saving back up, it will come back up. But if you had that money, you paid it off, guess what? Your insurance wouldn't be canceled because now you paid for that mistake out of pocket. It was your money. You self-insured.
Yeah.
And now you're not paying an astronomical. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I've learned about finances is not having money makes it more expensive to live, right? Because you're a higher risk to those around you. So if you need money, money's more expensive. If you need insurance, insurance is more expensive because you're a higher risk, right? And I think that so many people just don't have the forethought to think that through and say, I need to be prepared for this. And so we always talk about this. I don't want to come back to it over and over again, but we talk to these guys who are technicians who want to start shops. And they're like, all these people are pissed off. I mean, they are absolutely pissed that we've been saying, if you don't have $100,000, don't go try and start a shop, whether you finance it, whatever you do. And they're like, I started my shop with $10,000. You don't understand why we're saying it. It has nothing to do with, well, you could do it. Of course you could do it. I did it. I was an idiot. I started, it was hell.
Yeah.
Right? And it put me in jeopardy that until now I didn't realize I was in that jeopardy. I put my family in jeopardy. I put everybody around me in jeopardy. when I didn't have to. It wasn't important. I could have gone and got a job and made just as much money as what I made up to that point. So they think it's like, well, you're saying you can't start a shop without $100,000. No, that's not what I'm saying.
I think we've been saying more.
Yeah, 200, I think, is what we've been saying recently.
Yeah.
It's the fact that if you can't get to that spot, if you can't have that money to get there, it is a whole different proposition to have a business without that security.
Yep. Thank you for listening to the Changing the Industry podcast. If you enjoyed the show, do us a favor and leave us a review on your favorite podcast player. And don't forget to set it to automatically download the latest episode. Our efforts with this podcast, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group wouldn't be possible without the support of our awesome sponsors. So please take a moment, check them out by clicking on the links in the show notes.